Today is August 2nd, 2017. This is a follow-up to the video I did in September, I think, or October. Anyway, if you looked at the first video, you know that I bought the bike in September, and I put about 1,500 miles on it, maybe a little bit more. I've had the first service done at about 800 miles, and that costs $266 at the local dealer. As predicted when I ended my last video, there are some things I forgot to mention. One major thing, I think. I will cover those. First, I want to briefly run down what I did with the heated stuff and cover these briefly, these bags that I've added. I ride in the wintertime. My average trip is 32 miles round trip down to the airport to fly my plane. That's the majority of the stuff, and I do it all during the year, especially during the winter when it gets pretty cold, so I need the heated stuff. I've got the Gear Beans jacket liner and heated gloves. I started out with trying to run off the plug that was installed by the dealer, which was a battery tender. It turned out that the polarity was reversed, and this switch that I got from Gear Beans didn't work, so I had to run a new wire. I also found out that the switch was inconvenient, hard to do, hard to see, especially when you're riding to reach down. So I ended up adding remove the battery tender cord and put in the Gear Beans cord with a 15-inch fuse. And I added this switch that you can see right here that I can add power to this outlet right here for my heated stuff. Works really good. These are switches that I got at Amazon. They were relatively cheap, pretty easy to install. The wire was not that easy to install. Let's see. All right, the bags. Southwest Motec bags. They install easy, like them. What I don't like is locking is really difficult, and especially if you want to leave them on the bike. Now, they are fairly easy to take off. This is Velcroed, comes off, and it has a handle that you put the two bags together and you can carry them with you. But I've also got this lock, master lock, that you can run between the eyes on the zipper here and run through here, and it'll lock them. But anybody that's really serious about getting the bags, if they don't mind tearing up the zippers and stuff, would be able to get the bags. So you might want to just think about taking them with you. I thought for a while that maybe this Velcro thing would fit under the seat and I'd be able to kind of lock it that way, but that does not work. Again, easy to install. You need a Torx wrench, which you can get at Harbor Freight, so no big deal. All right, into the finish up the pros and cons. I suspect this will be the last video I do because I think I will cover everything unless something major happens. And I've written these down, so hopefully I don't forget them like I did last time. Number one, the biggest deal is the turning radius. The turning radius on this motorcycle is the worst I've ever had. It's really bad. I first noticed it when I first took it over to a friend of mine's house. He has a driveway fairly narrow and it's sloped. I tried to turn around and leave, and I couldn't get the bike turned around because it was down. It was hard to do. Luckily, he pushed it back for me and I was able to get out of there, but I realized at that time how poor the turning radius was. You might want to keep that in mind when you're parking or you're thinking about making a U-turn. Next thing is the spools. I bought Venom front and rear lifts for the bike. And these are 8mm screws, but you could probably see how poorly they were designed because they're inset and they've got this around the top, so you're missing probably 1/4 of an inch of mount space when you put it in there. So you actually need probably a little extended 8mm spool, but the spools that came with the Venom lift actually worked. I just don't know how safe they are as far as lifting the bike. That could have easily been remedied by BMW when they had the mold going to fill that in, so you had all that space to mount. Other thing is the rear brake. At first I didn't like it. Way different than my FZ1 Yamaha. Very different. It's not difficult to find, but it's not intuitive when you're riding the bike. You almost have to think about it. But luckily, they're the front and the rear are locked, or not. It's not locked together, but they're when you put on one, the other one will put on whether you put the brake on or not. So that's not that big a deal. Throttle response is fabulous. I have the bike in the ride mode, and I really like the throttle response. Real easy to operate, not as jerky as a lot of motorcycles I've had, so really do like that. Mirrors are good. They do get a vibration starting in them about 60 miles an hour. Not totally unusable. Certainly the stuff behind you gets a little blurred as you're going. Let's see, gas tank. Really like the gas tank, 4.6 gallons. I'm averaging 44 miles to the gallon, but like I said, again, most of my trips are down to the airport and back, 32 miles one way, so, but I do get really good gas mileage on it, so it gives you good distance. Another thing I don't like on BMW, if you ever have BMW, you'll know this, they use all Torx screws and bolts, so these things you have to buy special tools. You can get them at Harbor Freight. It's not that big a deal. But that's one thing that I guess they don't want you working on, which sounds more like BMW. The other thing is the computer. When you have first service and you have oil changes due and things like that, which happens about once a year depending on your mileage, the computer comes on, tells you have to do it. You can't reset it yourself. You have to take it to the dealer, which I'm sure that was part of BMW's strategy to make sure you visit your dealer and spend money down there. But the computer is under the seat. To do it yourself, you have to buy this $399 tool, and you have to have Windows on a laptop to be able to do it. But you could do it yourself if you're willing to invest that kind of money. I don't like that. The other thing is the seat screws, poorly designed by BMW. They're behind the seat here. I don't know if you can, probably won't be able to see them. Well, there's one of them, but yeah, there it shows up. You have to pull the seat back, hold it back while you get your Torx screw down there, a wrench, and try to remove them. Not very convenient at all. Definitely could have been designed better by BMW. The foot pegs, I wish they were a little bit lower and a little bit further forward. They're a little uncomfortable. You almost have to rest your ball of your foot on the peg to keep it from sliding forward, but not that big a deal. The last thing I'm going to mention is the oil sight glass. BMW, through poor engineering again, put the oil sight glass right here on the left side of the bike. So if you want to check the oil, it's like a two-man operation, unless you want to risk the bike falling over, being unbalanced. My FC1, in fact, all the bikes I've had the oil sight glass over here on the right-hand side of the bike, which was easy because you could just pull the bike up fairly level and do that. One last thing I'll mention before I get going here is the Venom lifts. I think I told you I got them at Amazon. They're about $75. You can do that as a one-man operation if you use small blocks of wood to put underneath the kickstand, just a little bit at a time till you get it almost balanced. Then go back and put your lift on the back, and you can lift it up without having to have two people do it. So I think that's going to cover it. Hopefully this is a little bit quicker than the last video. One last thing I'll mention is some of you may wonder why a 69-year-old would want something so hot between his legs. So I'll let you in on a little secret that you may not believe, especially younger viewers. Just because your body ages doesn't mean your mind does. I'm the same immature idiot I was when I was 25. The only difference is that I may have a little more common sense based on life experiences, but then again, maybe not. So with that, adios. If you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll try to answer them and get to them as quickly as possible.